And joining me now to discuss all of this are Professor Gerald Steinberg of NGO Monitor and Professor Kobi Michael, Senior Researcher at INSS and Misgav Institutes. Thank you both for joining. Kobi, what do you think? Can it possibly signal some kind of genuine intent on Hamas's part, or is it more of a strategic play to appease Trump and the United States?
I think that Hamas continues playing with our concessions. This is the way that Hamas plays the game. I do not trust Hamas, and I do not believe any word that comes out from a mouth of any Hamas speaker. I think that what actually they say is something that Israel can never accept. And the idea that they say yes, which means that they are willing to release all the hostages, but then we see, and to cease the war, but then we see the list of their demands. I mean, Israel cannot accept even a single demand of Hamas. Israel cannot end the war as long as Hamas remains on its feet as even a weaker sovereign power in the Gaza Strip. Hamas does not intend to give up on its assets in the Gaza Strip. And although they said and declared several times that they are willing to give up on the civilian authorities, and they are willing to accept a technocratic committee or a technocratic government, you name it, but they are not willing to disarm themselves, it means that they will dictate eventually what will be there in the Gaza Strip, regardless any alternative civilian governance. It is something which is very similar to Hezbollah model that we used to know until October 7th in Lebanon. And this is something that Israel cannot accept, of course. And therefore, I think that our working assumption should be that the hostages will not be released by Hamas. Therefore, we will remain with the only option, with the only valid option, which is the full occupation of the Gaza Strip on its entirely, establishment of a temporary military administration that will enable the establishment of an alternative governance supported by an Arab mission force, backed by the international community, and maybe the beginning of the reconstruction process. This is the only valid option that I see. But I think that Israel, just in order to release a bit the international pressure on it, should say, okay, if Hamas is willing to release all the hostages and to cease the war, and we have our demands, let's go to the negotiation table. And by the way, the demands, most of the Israeli demands are supported and accepted by the international community.
And the United States.
That Hamas will be disarmed, the demand that Hamas will not be part of the day after in the Gaza Strip, the demand that the Gaza Strip will be demilitarized zone, and even the demand that the overall security responsibility will be in the Israeli hands. All of these demands are accepted by the international community. So let's bring the international community, President Macron, okay, and the British Prime Minister and the Canadian Prime Minister, and tell them, okay, now tell Hamas to accept your demands, and let's see what is going there. And knowing that Hamas will refuse, and we have to put it in a limit of time, then we have to continue the occupation of the city of Gaza and the entire Gaza Strip. Maybe we will be able to recharge a little bit the legitimacy battery.
Now, let me ask you about the hostage deal. President Trump has taken a hard line now and before in his speech and his rhetoric, demanding the immediate release of all hostages. No partial deals, right? But the government in Israel has shown willingness for partial deals. Do we know where Israel stands on this? What is your opinion? Partial deal or all or nothing?
You are asking who?
Both of you. Let's start with
your
Kobi.
turn. You go first.
Look, I believe that if there will be a partial deal on the table, eventually Israel will take it. I see a huge difficulty of any Israeli government or any Israeli prime minister to say no to such an option, knowing that we are able to release at least 10 hostages, alive hostages. Israel will not declare about it publicly. Israel will continue demanding a comprehensive deal, which means all the hostages. And I think that if it will be a partial deal, Israel will present it as a whole deal with two stages. Okay, but honestly, I'm telling you that I believe that if it will be a partial deal, it will be a one stage and one stage only deal. There will be no second stage because the gaps between both sides are unbridgeable. This is a zero-sum game. They are unbridgeable. And therefore, I think that if we will go back to something which is similar to Witkoff proposal, which means
Right.
that we will get now 10 alive hostages
10.
and 18 dead hostages, and we will go to 60 days of negotiation. There will be 60 days of negotiation, but nothing will come out of these 60 days of negotiation, and we will find ourselves in a second circus cycle or round against Hamas, but this time it will be much harder for Israel because Israel will be exposed to huge international pressures, even I suspect from President Trump, from the American administration, and therefore Israel takes upon itself a huge risk. But this is, I would say, a sort of a stalemate that Israel is caught in because it will be very hard, as I said at the beginning, for any prime minister, for any government to say no for the releasing of 10 alive hostages.
Kobi, let me ask you. The IDF chief has previously opposed an assault on Gaza City. He argued it endangered the remaining hostages, while others pushed for full military action. So obviously in Israel, everyone wishes for the hostages to be rescued or released. But there seems to be an internal divide here on the approach of how to go ahead and do this in terms of strategy. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm very concerned about it, and I spoke about it several times, and I wrote about it. By the way, since 23, the demonstrations and the protest against the legal reform. I think that the idea that all the disputes between the political and the military echelons become to be a part of the public discourse, and it is clear cut that there are leaks from the security establishment, and the idea that the military echelon maybe feels frustrated because it cannot, I would say, convince the political echelon in this regard, and therefore it tries maybe to leverage the public discourse or the public itself in order to increase the pressure on the political echelon. This is something which is very, very risky. We are on a slippery slope in this regard. Regardless what I personally think about the professional view of the IDF. Okay, I can agree with them, I can disagree with them. It doesn't
Right.
matter at all, because today there is such a dispute and there is such a phenomenon about this issue. And if we normalize it, if we legitimize it, tomorrow we are going to have it about a different issue. And I think that in the discourse between both echelons, the military echelon should put bravely on the table all the things, all its thoughts. And at the end of the day, in a democratic society, in a democratic state, the system is, and the principle is that the political echelon has the responsibility to make its call. Okay, once it was made by the political echelon, the military echelon must salute, obey, and then do the best it can from the professional point of view in order to realize the strategic purposes, objectives, goals of the political echelon, the elected political echelon. In a democracy, the political echelon can be wrong. In democracy, the political echelon has I would say, the privilege or the right to be wrong, but the only one that can punish the political echelon about being wrong is the public in the D-Day, in the ballots, okay, in the election. And I think that the idea that the military echelon tries to put itself, or some other trying to put the military echelon as a gatekeeper of the Israeli democracy, and we don't have constitution, but we have basic laws, and I think that I'm pretty familiar with the basic laws, and I don't know any basic law that says or states that the IDF is the protector of the Israeli democracy, okay? The gatekeeper of the Israeli democracy. It is not the role of the IDF, and I think that the idea that these disputes became to be part of the public dispute is something that
I see.
is very wrong and very risky for the Israeli democracy.
Thank you for these valid points that you're both making. Professor Kobi Michael, Professor Gerald Steinberg, thank you very much for joining us and for your important input.
Thank you for having us.